Again, to all my food warriors, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are making a beautiful pan-seared salmon with a beautifully seasonal mango salsa. We were out in the market shopping yesterday. The mangoes looked fantastic, and so we picked up an entire case. And as soon as we brought them home, the first thing I was thinking about is mango salsa. It's a great accompaniment to kind of lighter meats and seafoods, things like grilled or pan-seared chicken, pork, or seafood of any description. Beautifully seasonal. Brings a great deal of sweetness to the party, but very, very healthy as well. So we're going to have a nice light lunch, and we're going to have something a little bit more indulgent for dinner. We may put that on the channel as well, but we're going to get right into it and get our mango salsa going. So a little sip of coffee before we start. All right, and we're going to get going. So what we want to do, we've got two of our mangoes. We don't want them overripe. We want them just to start to get soft to the touch. But we certainly don't want them green. We want a little bit of sweetness, but we don't want them too mushy. So we're just going to take a vegetable peeler here, and we're just going to peel these before we slice them up. There we are. Always good to have a nice sharp vegetable peeler in the kitchen. Can take any number of items to task. So just be a little bit careful here, because as we do get to where the mango is mostly peeled, it gets a little bit slippery, and we want to make sure that we don't nip a finger as we're doing this. There we are. There we are. That's one, and we'll get our second one dispatched here as well. This is an absolutely great combination. Mangoes bring a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of sourness. But they're very, very healthy, lots of vitamins and minerals. And when we accompany this with something like salmon, we get all of our omega-3s. We found a beautiful fillet of salmon with our fishmonger this weekend, and so we picked that up as well. We try and eat seafood and different kinds of fish at least twice a week, just to kind of alter up the diet a little bit, but to make sure that we get a good bit of variety and a good bit of nutrients in terms of what we eat. There we are. So now we'll just move this off to the side. All we're going to do now is we're going to cut the lobes of flesh off. The mango kind of looks like a little bit like a football shape. It's slightly wider this way, slightly narrower this way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut along the narrow side, and we're going to take right along the bone, get our two big lobes of flesh. There we are. Right off. Just put these off to the side for a sec. And then along the wider side, we're just going to cut again along the contour of the bone, or the pit, I should say. There we are. And remove as much of the flesh as we can. Now this will be a snack for later. I will take care of that a little bit later and kind of munch on that one in private, as there's no distinguished way to really take the meat off the bone other than just to go at it. There we are. One, two. Again, move these guys off to the side, and we'll just take off some of that flesh from the side of the mango as well. All right. So I'm just going to give our board a quick cleanup, and I will see you in 1 minute. All right, we are back, and we are just going to start cutting up our mangoes here. So we're going to start off with just some of this side flesh that we took off. All we want to do is kind of rough chop this fairly evenly, but we want to keep this rustic. Again, this is a very, very simple preparation. There we are. We don't want to cut this too small, but we want this to be just kind of a rustic, chunky salsa. There we are. And we're also going to be using a few other things to flavor our salsa here. We've got a little bit of shallot, which I find to be a little bit sweeter, a little bit milder than onion. So we're going to be using a couple of medium-sized shallots, and then we're going to be using some parsley as well. Now, normally I'd be using a jalapeno pepper as well. What I would do is I would simply take jalapeno, split it in half, yard out all of the seeds and pith from the interior, and just use the flesh of the pepper. I don't have jalapeno on hand, and so I'm going to be using some of my homemade chili oil just to bring a little bit of heat. Everything here, because it's a salsa, you want everything to be in balance. You want it to be a little bit sweet, a little bit spicy, a little bit acidic, a little bit sour. So we are going to be using a little bit of a vinegar as part of the dressing for this salsa. But again, everything here, we're not making a salad. We do want this to be, in balance. So I'm just going to finish up cutting up our mangoes. I will see you in 1 minute. All right, we are back. We've got all of our mango here in our mixing bowl. And now we're going to move on to our 2 shallots. So this is got a 1 shallot that comes apart in 2 lobes. And then we've got the second one sitting here. So all we're going to do here is we are going to cut our shallot into kind of a medium fine dice. Because this is a salsa, in my opinion, it is absolutely essential to have kind of an onion component to this. So I definitely don't want to put any garlic in this. I think that would certainly overpower. But as I'm looking for something from the onion family to use in this, I would either use something like a shallot or something like a green onion. Something on the milder side, something a little bit sweeter, maybe a sweet white onion if we had. There we are. We definitely want to have a little bit of a savory contrast to all of the sweetness that's in our mango. There we are. Definitely don't want to have any big pieces in there. I want everything to mix in beautifully, uniformly. There we are. Absolutely perfect. There we are. So we'll get this right into our bowl here as well. And then we will move on to our herbs. Now, in most, I would say, Mexican style salsas, cilantro would be traditional. I am not one of those people who like cilantro. I'm one of those people for which cilantro tastes like soap. And so I definitely stay away from it. I'm going to be using a little bit of flat leaf Italian parsley. If you are not one of those people for whom cilantro tastes like soap, by all means, fill your boots. But for me, I'm just going to use a little bit of flat leaf parsley here. I just want something to just freshen up my salsa a little bit. This is parsley from the garden. It's quite young, it's quite tender, so I'm using stems and all. I want a little bit of the crunch from the stems to add a little bit of a textural component to this. But I find that parsley gives it a nice balanced, neutral herb flavor, and cilantro, not for me. So we will just put all of this into our bowl. There we are. Now I'm going to give this a quick wash down, and I will be right back with you in 1 minute. All right, we are back. Now, if I had like I said, if I had a whole jalapeno pepper, I would simply cut it in half, take all of the seeds and pith out, dice it up finely, and put it right into the salsa. Since I don't, I'm going to substitute a couple of spoons here, and these are just small little espresso spoons of my chili oil with a little bit of the chilies that are flavoring this oil. I do want to get just a little bit of heat into this, just to balance and counter the sweetness from the mango. And this will be, again, everything in balance. A little bit of heat, a little bit of sweet. We're now going to get into kind of our dressing, and it's not really a dressing in the sense of what you would think of for a salad, but you do want to get Just a little bit of olive oil in there, just to loosen it up. A couple of tablespoons. And the trick to this, sherry vinegar. This makes all the difference in the world. Now we typically have a few vinegars in the house at all times, just for different recipes and applications, whether red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, balsamic vinegar, and whatnot. But sherry vinegar has a very distinct flavor, works exceptionally well in this recipe. And so all we're gonna do, again, is we're gonna give this a couple tablespoons. That's it. So we're gonna give this a little bit of salt and pepper as well. And we are going to give this, there we are, we are going to give this a mix. And now all we want to do is just let this sit and rest. We don't want to eat this right away. We want to let these flavors come together. Oh, I can smell that sherry vinegar. It is absolutely fantastic. It's got a very distinctive flavor as a vinegar, and in certain applications, when I make my piri pepper sauce, it's got to be sherry vinegar, and when I make my mango salsa, it absolutely has to be sherry vinegar. There is no substitute. It brings a very distinct flavor to the party that you will definitely know if you are missing. So we're just going to give this just a quick taste. I love it. I absolutely love it. Sweet, sour, a little bit of that herb profile from the parsley, a little bit of savoriness from the onion, that sherry vinegar. I love it. Absolutely love it. I would not change a thing in terms of the seasoning. So all we're going to do now, leave this off to the side. I'm going to remove a couple of things from the counter, and we will come right back with the salmon. All right, we are back, and I have my beautiful side of salmon here out on my board. This will easily feed 8 people, easily. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this up. This is boneless, skinless salmon. Beautifully fatty, beautifully marbled. Absolutely love this stuff. So we are just going to cut this up into portions, and we are going to lay this right here on our pan. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, just like that. There we are. Now these are about, I'd say, a good 5-ounce serving, 5, maybe 6-ounce serving. There we are. And then we've got our tail piece. So as they get a little thinner, I cut them a little wider just to make sure that they're all relatively the same size. So I'm just going to give my hands a quick wash. We are going to season these up, and we are going to go right to the pan. So I will see you in 1 minute. All right, we are back. Now we're going to pan sear our salmon. What we're going to do first is we're going to get some of the heat into our pan. We want to make sure we preheat this. All we're going to do with our salmon, a little bit of salt and pepper, that's all. So I have here just a little bit of kosher salt. I'm going to cook these in 2 batches. So I'm going to be very, very delicate with the salt. This is just a little bit of kosher salt. And I like kosher salt, especially when I'm searing meat or fish, as I get a much better feel for how much I'm dosing out between my fingers. And then a little bit of freshly cracked black pepper. Now you might find it odd when I say freshly cracked black pepper and I have it in a ramekin here. I do not buy my pepper pre-ground. I buy whole peppercorns, and I have a little coffee grinder that I use exclusively for spices. And whenever I need pepper, I just grind as much as I'm going to use probably in the next week or so. And that way it's always fresh and ready to go. I'm just going to flip this over. There we are. And now I'm going to switch hands. There we are. All we really want to do here is caramelize the natural sugars, the natural juices from the salmon in our pan. And that is going to give us an absolutely fantastic restaurant quality finish, restaurant quality product made easily at home. So we have some heat coming up in our pan. I'm just going to wash my hands quickly. Here we are. And now we are ready to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get some oil in our pan. This again is a good extra virgin olive oil. What we want to get is a good, I'd say 5 or 6 tablespoons in our pan. There we are. And we are going to let this continue to come up to temperature. What I have here to flavor the oil is a little bit of fresh thyme from the garden, and I've got a good 4 or 5 cloves of garlic here as well. What we're going to do is we're going to put this into the oil. This will infuse the oil, and the oil in turn will flavor the fish. So it's an absolutely fantastic technique, but this is one of those where it'll caramelize the outside of the fish beautifully. The inside will still be beautifully, I would say, medium to medium rare, beautifully flaky, beautifully moist. There's more than enough fat in this salmon to keep it moist. There we are. So now what we'll do is we'll get our thyme sprigs into the oil. Be careful, this has the tendency to kind of bubble up and splatter a little bit. So, yep, you hear that? And we will get our garlic cloves in our oil as well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get our salmon presentation side down to start, so that way we get the best presentation possible on the plate. When we're laying this into the pan, we want to make sure we lay it away from us, so any splatters will not be coming back at us. There we are. And I can just use my salmon here to move some of these items around to make sure that I have space to sear all 4 pieces. There we are. I'm just going to move them around to make sure that they don't stick. And I will give these easily about, I would say, 5 to 6 minutes, even 7 minutes on the first side. And then as I flip this, maybe 1 minute on the second side, and this will be absolutely perfectly cooked. So I will see you in about 7 minutes. All right, we are just about ready to flip. These have had a good 6 to 7 minutes on the first side, and I'm just going to give them the last maybe 1, maybe 2 minutes on the second side. So we're just going to give these guys a quick flip. Oh, come on, baby. There we are. Look at that beautiful color. That's exactly what we're looking for. Beautiful sear, beautiful caramelization. Fantastic. Beautifully even, all 4 pieces. That is exactly what I'm looking for. So we're just going to finish these off, literally last minute or so, and then we are going to go right to the plate. So we'll just put our cutlery here for a sec. A little sip of coffee. All right. I think we are just about there. So I'm gonna cut the heat. We'll bring our plate a little bit closer. We will take this beautiful, beautiful piece right here in the center. There we are. And right down on our plate. I'm going to take these guys off the heat here just so they don't overcook. And we will serve these guys up. There we are. And as we are having lunch, I will get our second group of 4 on the heat. Now you see here, our garlic has turned beautifully golden. You don't want to take it anything past that. Otherwise, it will impart a bitter flavor to the oil. Once our thyme crisps up the way it has, we take it out, we remove it. We certainly don't need anything else from it. It's given all that it has to give, and it will only make our oil bitter. So now, we have our beautiful fillet of salmon. We are going to give our salsa one last mix, and we are just going to put this right here on the plate. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mound it up here on one side of our beautiful fillet of salmon. And this right here is how it's done. So we're going to take, my first bite is always from this little belly piece here. It's almost like salmon bacon. It's crispy, it's juicy, and you see there's so much juice here in the salmon. You know what, I'm just going to break a piece off here. Just look at that. Look at that. Turn this around. Look at that. Look at all the juice coming out there. It's not dried out at all. It's got more than enough fat to keep it moist. And so this is the beauty of pan searing. You leave that moisture in the meat, and what you get is a beautifully crispy outside, beautifully moist and delicious inside. Oh, I can't wait. Mm. Mm. There is so much contrast and so much balance at the same time. You get the hot and the cold. You get the beautiful savoriness of the salmon. It's beautifully moist. And then you get the sweetness of the mango, the spice of the chili, that herbaceousness from the parsley, that savoriness from the shallot, and that beautifully balanced dressing. Absolutely fantastic. I do hope you try this. Simple, but definitely not basic. Healthy dish, light lunch, great any time of the day, any time of the week. As always, this is Coach Joe saying, do like and subscribe if you find the content useful. Do share it, as that is extensively what we're all about. And I will see you on the next one.